What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of LaLiga Insiders. A lot to unpack here. Yes, of course, I'm specifically talking about Barcelona. Gemma, Rodrigo, Faez, and Cristina Alexander. Let's start off with the toughest situation with Barcelona. But yeah, it was tough, but maybe a little bit expected because they didn't even, get the chance to at least have that pride in front of their fans with Bayern Munich. Real Madrid, too, the plan was to stay unbeaten before Qatar 2022, and now that's looking a little bit different as well. And what's new with our insiders? Of course, Gemma and Rodrigo have a lot to talk about and to tell us today. And of course, a little bit of extra time because we always like having a little bit of fun here. A lot of fun, actually. But let's start with what I already said with Barcelona and the tough situation. We saw Bayern Munich, and maybe this was a little bit expected, maybe not as bad. Gemma, I don't know, am I reading it correctly?
Hola, Cristina. Well, yes, it was expected. Both fans and the players knew that it was extremely difficult because it, not only once, but Inter needed to not be able to win in two games, and Barcelona needed to win Bayern. So the package was very difficult, but there was life, so there was hope. They tried. They decided to watch the game all together in the locker room, and it was not a funny afternoon for them all, but the people were a little bit confident. I was there at the Camp Nou, and there were a lot of fans giving a warm welcome to the players, knowing that they were going to the stadium almost 4 hours before the kickoff, and they wanted to clap them, to give them love. Eventually, it was a disaster in both parts. They watched how Inter trashed Victoria Pilsen, and they needed to motivate themselves to play against their nemesis because the numbers against Bayern are really terrible. It's 12 match between in the last 12 games they played. Barcelona have only been able to win 2 of them. The rest is 1 draw, all defeats, and now it's 33 goals against them. So it's a lot. It was very difficult psychologically to play that game in front of a home crowd, knowing that they had no chance to be going to Europe. And then I don't know, it was a tragic night because everything they tried, they started with the possession, but every time they were trying to go to the final third, there was no ideas, no quality, no inspiration. So it was quite a bit disaster night for Barcelona. It ended up quite well with the fans and the players. I wanted to thank the fans, but it was a huge disappointment for players.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, with the fans who went so early to support them, because they knew, Rodrigo, that mentally it was going to be really, really tough. With or without, I want to say, that victory of Inter. It was already a tough situation. But do you boil it down to the mentality or what Gemma was saying with that lack of idea when they got to the final third?
It's a disgrace what happened last night in Barcelona. I mean, we gotta be, so clear in this because why those efforts of Barcelona board to sign in the summer window transfer so many people? Why then Xavi asking for so many players? Why those players came to Barcelona? And then, that doesn't really have anything to do now. I mean, you have to focus on La Liga because Europa League is kind of a dramatic situation for these kind of players. Who would imagine Lewandowski playing in the Europe League this year? I mean, it's a disgrace, it's a drama, whatever you call it. And I know that all the people in Barcelona are kind of looking for any kind of, players, sporting direction, the board to blame for. But I think all the people at Barcelona inside the club is to blame because this is not only one person's fault. I think this is a collective fault, and I think that Barcelona are going to struggle even more than I thought at the beginning, but more after what happened last night.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, well, they have to shift their focus now to La Liga, which has also been a tough situation. They were at least able to recover in their last 2 results, Gemma, but how can they turn this around and focus on not only what's coming this weekend, but Xavi's already talking about Europa League and, of course, Copa del Rey.
Well, the goal they have today, because yesterday was not a day to think about anything, is to win the 4 matches they have left before the World Cup. So at least know that then next year, not just before on New Year's Eve, that match day they will play of La Liga, at least Real Madrid, the worst scenario will be only 3 points ahead of them. So they want to need to win the 3 match days they have in La Liga, plus winning at Victoria Pilsen Stadium is the only thing they can do to try to spend this huge setback they are suffering. And the first game, it's a really complicated stadium, Mestalla, Valencia. Yes, it's true they have been able to win there in last 2 visits, but psychologically the team is affected, and we saw that in a tough game like El Clásico they were very affected because of the draw against Inter, which led them almost out of the Champions League, and they couldn't stand over that. Now they only have like La Liga, like a major title to compete for. The locker room is deeply affected. We were yesterday there, they told us that it was like a funeral, the locker room, and they were very affected. But starting today, they went back to doing a really soft, almost warm-up, like they call it to recovery training. And it's not only physical, Cristina, it's also psychologically. There is a psychological team in Xavi's staff to try to work that, and the first goal, the main goal right now, is trying to the players to be well psychologically to compete in Mestalla against Gennaro Gattuso's Valencia.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, not only to try to recover with what that result was, but also all the chatter around what started in the summer, what we're seeing now, and what you mentioned earlier, Rodrigo, about the economical status of this team and all of the levers that were applied to be able to sign so many players, and what they missed out on with money-wise making it to the next round of the Champions League. So what's next for Xavi? Can we really say now that there's a little bit of doubt maybe in his job with so many expectations and economical situations?
He better pray to win Valencia, because if not, he's going to struggle a lot even before the World Cup break. To be honest, I wouldn't sack Xavi in any way, because I understand that since this squad is an under construction team, I do believe that Xavi is under construction coach as well. So I will give him, the whole season to grow a little bit more and to try to learn every single day of the of this experience for him, because we remember that Xavi 1 year ago he was training in Qatar. So I understand that the gap in between Qatar and coaching a team so important like Barca, I think it's a huge gap, and he needs some time to improve and to get well. So that's why, for Xavi, I mean, he needs to win. I mean, I'm gonna take back again that discuss that I said before, losing at the Clásico against Real Madrid. He needs to win as soon as possible, and he won against Villarreal and Athletic de Bilbao, and now he needs another win to say, okay, I'm here, I'm gonna be calm down again. I need that patience that the club need at the same time. So that's why, I wouldn't sack him anyway. I wouldn't fire Xavi, because if not, I think Barca is gonna struggle even more.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't need another thing on their plate. Clearly there's confidence with the players, at least what we're seeing outside with the players and with Xavi. I mean, Dembélé is a really good example of the Xavi impact that has been at the moment. But there's so much still to unpack in what's left of not only the stretch before the World Cup, but with the season that looks to be a little longer than expected. But we'll see if they can turn around. Of course, we realists. We don't really like to be pessimists here on LaLiga Insiders. Let's turn it around now to Real Madrid. Rodrigo, I'll stick with you because, of course, a negative result for them, although we know what Real Madrid has been not only last season, but this season, of course. So how much can this negative result truly affect Carlo Ancelotti and company?
No, there. I mean, that result against Leipzig is going to affect the squad in a positive way because no one understands inside the club why Real Madrid started that Champions League game against Leipzig in that way. I mean, even I got one source that told me this morning that they looked like the players looked like they were going for a walk. And this is something that Real Madrid doesn't really stand in Champions League or La Liga. I mean, this is Real Madrid. You need to win. At least you have to compete at your highest level. So that's why they don't really understand why some players started in that game like that. So that's why this is going to affect them in a positive way because if not, bad times are coming for Real Madrid and even for Ancelotti. So they know what the problem is. And they want to look ahead and say, okay, we're not going to repeat that behavior. We're going to improve a little bit more our performances. They know that they're not at the best peak form of this season, but they want to keep unbeaten and they want to win all these 3 games that are left before the Qatar World Cup break. So that's why they're focused again. They're going to get back Luka Modric, Benzema, and Fede Valverde. The 3 of them are going to be back for Sunday's game against Girona, so that's why they're a bit disappointed in the way that they didn't want to lose. They know what they failed, so that's why they want to change the mind and they want to say to the supporters, okay, we're here, we didn't leave.
Yeah, and it's interesting what Rodri says, Gemma, that this could affect them, but in a positive way, maybe to reignite the motivation if that flame was maybe turned off in the last few weeks because they had such fantastic weeks too, not only at the individual level with Benzema, but of course collectively. So do you also see this as a great motivator from Real Madrid from here looking forward?
Yeah, of course, Cristina, we will see how they react against Girona in the next match day, but they proved in the past that sometimes this kind of red alarms helps them to compete. We saw it last year at the end of the season. They looked like a perfect machine. They lose El Clásico in that huge loss against Barcelona 4-0, and then bam, they went back to be machines and to work really well together and to go to the games with a lot of energy and motivations. I don't know what happened against Leipzig, but probably they proved that they are humans. They are not a machine, and they were missing, as Rodrigo was mentioning, a lot of key players. So they proved to do that, and they have that competitive gen. So I'm sure that with Benzema, Valverde, Modric back with the team, with the speech or the annoyed speech that I'm sure Carlo Ancelotti will give to them, or even Thibaut Courtois, he was kind of being very autocritic. And I couldn't watch that game because I was covering the PSG Maccabi Haifa, but I always like to watch the highlights, which is the best of the game. And I can tell there was not that much energy in that game from Real Madrid. So I'm sure it's gonna make them some kind of attention. Come on, guys! There's only 4 games left before World Cup. We have to do it because we have been doing it very well. Let's not fail now. So I'm sure they will.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how you mentioned that you were covering the PSG game. You were very busy. There were a lot of goals as well in that game. So we totally get it if you didn't have the chance to even look down to see how Real Madrid was doing at that time. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they react this coming weekend. Rodrigo, can we expect those 3 important players that are back to get the full 90 minutes or even the starting position?
Well, it depends on the last hour of the game because finally Ancelotti will have a chat with the 3 of them like, okay, are you ready for the whole game or are you ready only for a little part of the game? Depending on that or even in what the players answer to Ancelotti, he will make a decision, but I've been told that the 3 of them are fit enough to last more than 90 minutes. So the 3 of them are really focused on that game. They want to win. They want to say to the Real Madrid fan base, we're gonna be the leaders by the World Cup break. So that's why everyone is calm down with them, and Ancelotti will have the final word. But I'm sure that right after what happened in Germany against Leipzig, the three of them will start 100%.
Yeah, and that's good news for Real Madrid, as well, as if they need any more ingredients to still have success. And they're representing now Spain in the Champions League. Gemma, how do you think they're going to handle this kind of pressure?
Repeat the question again, please, Cristina.
Yeah, that they're representing Spain right now in the Champions League because of the knockouts of the other teams.
Yeah. Well, there will be an extra prize for Real Madrid for that in marketing bonuses, because as they will be the only team there, they will have some kind of bonus. So for them, it's like a win-win situation. One, because the other two teams that were relegated to the Europa League, let's say it in a nice way, they are not really good friends with Atletico and Barcelona. So it's happy for them and for the fan base to know that they will be playing the second division league, European League, we can say it like that. And it's funny that because La Liga has been historically in the last decade dominating European football, and now is struggling. Of course, you cannot be always there at your top level, and yeah, of course, now Spain only depends on Real Madrid. So yeah, they of course they will want to do it well anyways, but now they have this big responsibility as well, and it's a year of World Cup as well. So I think it's important that players, it will be after the World Cup, that they prove that Spain national team, Spain football is still at their
and
top.
It's true what you said about the marketing benefits. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, it's true. More attention from Real Madrid, more pressure, but I feel like they love the pressure. And I'm sure you guys are, in agreement with me when I say that and when I talk about Real Madrid. All right, let's switch over to some insider information. Rodri, we're sticking with Real Madrid, and of course, they maybe expected more from Barca and Atleti. What was that situation like?
Sure, I was shocked this morning when I got my cell phone and I started to make some callings on Real Madrid, and suddenly, one of my sources told me, like, inside the club they were so shocked at the same time by Barcelona and Atletico Madrid performances at the group stage of the Champions League. They were like, my God, we thought they were going through. And more with Barcelona, because they understand at Real Madrid that they reinforce the team in a really great way. So that's why they expected Barcelona to be, I don't know if the final or semi-finals, but they expected Barcelona at least to be at the quarterfinals, because they think that they have a strong enough squad to be there. With Atletico Madrid happened the same, and mostly when you look around Atletico Madrid rivals and you see Brujas, you see Oporto, or even Bayer Leverkusen, Atletico Madrid is better than the whole rivals, in each line of the field. So that's why, they were shocked about that, and they were really surprised by Barcelona and Atletico Madrid performances. And now they have the pressure on that. You were talking about that. They feel comfortable about that. This is not the first time that Real Madrid is the only survivor, the only Spanish survivor in UEFA Champions League. So that's why, another day at the office.
Exactly. Another day at the office. Maybe it was a little bit earlier than they expected, of course, especially with what you're telling us with Atletico, because with Barcelona, I feel like it was kind of expected, but we already talked about that. But yeah, maybe they thought it was going to be a little bit different looking forward and leaving the group stage behind. Let's stick with Barcelona now, Gemma, and Robert Lewandowski. Yeah, scoring a lot of goals, but how is he feeling now after this Champions League frustration?
So frustrated, so disappointed. Yesterday during the whole game, our exclusive ESPN camera, we decided to shot on Lewandowski the whole game, and I could watch the footage later. His faces, oh my God! I mean, it was so much frustration, desperation, rushing maybe too much. Psychologically, you could tell he was struggling so much. That body language, that someone is very uncomfortable. He already felt something similar in Allianz Arena, but there he had the chances, but this time he had really few balls, and the ones he had, he didn't took the right. Either he didn't take the right decision, or there were so many legs there in that Bayern area, and he couldn't do anything. So he was extremely frustrated, even though that he was a substitute at the time that the game was over. He decided to go with the rest of the team to applaud the fans that they were trying to support them. And later he went to Bayern Munich locker room to congratulate their former colleagues. He was affected, that's what they told us. And what I was telling you, in the other locker room, in Barcelona locker room, there was a lot of frustration, autocriticism. They know they haven't competed well, and Robert Lewandowski thinks the same. He still thinks he did the right decision. He wanted to have a final experience in another Liga, and he's happy to have. Well, not today is not happy the word, but he thinks he did what he had to do joining Barcelona. But he's extremely frustrated because he has been able to play the knockout stages of the Champions League in over a decade since he was in Dortmund. So he's feeling a lot of frustration. And just let me do one extra info that I know you like this, Tina. He was invited, but decided, of course, not to go to Bayern Munich celebration. They decided to not book a hotel near the Camp Nou, like most of the teams do. They booked a hotel just next to the beach side. They are quite smart, these Germans. And they booked a club, one of the most exclusive clubs in Barcelona. Rodrigo knows it well, Choco. And they closed that club, and they did a crazy celebration last night. Of course, Robert was invited, didn't attend, but I've been told that it was really fun. It was players, all the VIP supporters going there, and all the board of members. It was a lot of representatives from Bayern, and some colleagues and former players that live in Spain were there. So it was fun. We can say it was the black and white with Robert Lewandowski's frustration and the happiness of their former club.
Wow, it's this information is so interesting, Gemma, because could you imagine if any pictures had filtered of the fact that he went to that celebration? I mean, we would have started this whole segment with that, because that would have been shocking, of course, to fans. But like you said, smart guy, made the right decision. Yeah, I mean, it's nice for his friends at the end of the day. They're his friends, you know, that invited him and wanted to take advantage of the fact that they were in the same city. And I also want to know why Rodrigo knows this club so well.
To rumors.
Only rumors here on Insiders. All right, we can leave that for another segment. We already talked about the fact that Real Madrid is the only Spanish representation now in the Champions League because Atletico de Madrid was knocked out, which in part, of course, not all of the blame is going to that missed penalty. But tell us a little bit more about this situation, Rodrigo, and how that frustration now was lived with someone in Atletico de Madrid.
Yeah, right after the game, I was told by my people inside the club that Yannick Carrasco was so down that he was even crying in the locker room after the final whistle. I understand that Yannick Carrasco is not at the best moment of his Atletico de Madrid era, and I understand why he's so down, because he took the responsibility to say, okay, I'm gonna kick this penalty shoot because I am one of the veterans. I want to be here forever. I want to show the people that this La Liga beginning is something kind of weird in me, because I can do it much better, and I'm going to score this goal to get Atletico de Madrid at least a little bit of hope for the final group stage game. But finally he missed that penalty and he went down. He went completely down. He was crying in the locker room. And the thing is that I was told that he was father. He had a baby some weeks ago, and he's struggling a lot sleeping every night, because he's he's not getting used to this fatherhood thing. So that's why he's not in shape 100%, and he wanted to show and prove the people, Atletico de Madrid fan base, and even to show Simeone that he's still fit enough for Atletico de Madrid. But finally he didn't have the luck. And we have to say that some images from Spanish television showed that Joao Felix, who was in the field at the end of the game, wanted to shoot that penalty shoot. You know, there was like a discussion between them, and finally, Yannick Carrasco said, I am older than you, I'm going to take this chance, so, you know, apart from this, we're going to try to score, but finally they didn't, and now they are out of Champions League.
Yeah, that's a tough situation, of course, especially with the personal situation. I've never had kids myself, but of course that's what you hear, right? The lack of sleep. And the lack of sleep for someone who has to go back to work is tough enough. To go back to work and your work being a professional athlete and still have to perform physically and mentally at a tip-top shape, yeah, it's a lot for Carrasco. So I'm glad that you're explaining kind of what's behind it, because of course a lot of people will only see the fact that he missed a penalty and that's it, and that Atletico de Madrid is no longer in the UEFA Champions League. But anyway, let's switch back to Barcelona, because they are also, of course, as we already talked about, knocked out of the group stage of the Champions League. They're in a similar situation as they were last year, but of course, with all the financial levers that we're already talking about with Joan Laporta, what financial repercussions are there now in this setback of not making it to this next stage of the Champions League, Gemma?
Cristina, is a huge setback, and now they have to invent something else to try to balance the books. Let's remember that they invested about $170 million in a team, in building a team that will be competitive, attractive, yes, to have ticketing, more money, in more revenues into attendance in the stadium, and they have managed to do that until now. But winning, going to the knockout stages gives you a lot of money, and they were counting on that money because when they put that famous levers you were mentioning, they were thinking that they will be able to compete and maybe win La Liga and reach the last 8 of the Champions League. Not even if they manage to lift the title of Europa League, will be making as much money as going to the last 8. So that's another hole yet in Barcelona's finances. Not only this, so they made $19 million now with the group stage. They want to win Victoria Pilsen, not only because pride and showing that they can still win in Europe, but because it means 2 million. So at least to not be that much disaster. And I've been told that they are really concerned about supporters, tourists, foreigners not attending the Camp Nou, because that will mean another setback in the finances. And they are also worried about the marketing sponsors. They have like whole season deals, most of them, but not competing in the Champions League makes them less attractive on that. So that's why they twisted just after the Inter draw, they twist the argument of what is Barcelona to a team under construction. They want to do that argument to sponsors, to marketing, like, yes, we're a young team, we are rebuilding ourselves. And I think it's kind of true. But the thing is that you invested $170 million saying that we are a competitive team and making everybody so excited and with so much expectations. And this didn't prove to be right at the end of the day. So there is a lot of concern, and they are starting to work in certain areas to try to balance the books, and I will be explaining one of them, and there are a lot that they are trying to work.
I don't know a lot about finances or even building a business. I'm being completely honest with you guys, but I think I'm right when I say that a big investment doesn't necessarily mean that a business is going to have success. And that's what's been the tough situation with Barcelona, right? As you said, Gemma, they're in reconstruction. Of course, there are a lot of kids on this team, practically kids. But if you're making this kind of investment, of course, you expect a different kind of result. But we'll see if they can get that in the very near future, because it's a lot of pressure as well for these players. Speaking of pressure, of course, with Cholo Simeone and with this elimination with Atleti, I already asked you guys about, Xavi's situation and what that could mean now with Barcelona. What could this mean now for Cholo and with Atleti, Rodrigo?
There is no danger. I mean, Cholo Simeone is not in danger as Atletico Madrid coach. This is something that we have to be aware of, because after Champions League knockout, everyone is saying like, oh, maybe Cholo is not the proper coach to be at Atletico Madrid any longer after this season. But the fact is that he has contract till 2024 still, and he wants to be at Atletico Madrid till the end of his contract. First of all, because he has the power to be Atletico Madrid coach. Secondly, because he believes in the squad that he's training every single day. And thirdly, because if there's any point of his career in which he will leave Atletico Madrid, it will be right after winning any title, not after a loss like this beginning season. So that's why he wants to be Atletico Madrid coach since 2024. At least Atletico Madrid want him to be the coach of Atletico Madrid. I mean, there is no doubt in the board and the players. I know and I understand that some of the players that are not starters, they could have Simeone in doubt, but the rest of the team, they believe that is the ideal coach. So that's why Simeone is not in danger for this season. Unless something really, huge happens, which is not provided.
Yeah, and some huge things have happened in the last few seasons, and we still see Cholo Simeone. They love him. They absolutely love him there in Atletico de Madrid. And it's clear, right? They really do have faith in what the identity is now with Atleti, and of course has a lot to do with Cholo Simeone. Back to Barcelona and the financial situation. Gemma, looking forward to the winter transfer window, looking forward to even January. What are the plans with Barcelona and players like Piqué and with Jordi Alba?
As we mentioned, the financial problems are still there, and they want to improve the team. So they want to, I don't know if it's they want to or they need to get rid of big salaries. And this is a problem that comes from the past, and making the contracts of the captains and the key players in the past make them very long. So the next president will have the problem. So now they need to face this problem. They already tried to cut the salaries of two of the key players or captains like Gerard Piqué and Jordi Alba, and we've been told that they will work in the next days to try to find a solution with that, and otherwise they are thinking on even a rescission of that contract. They have it's a huge problem there because they have a lot of money left on their contracts. For Jordi Alba it's about 65 million euros, with Gerard Piqué is about 80 million euros, so they will try to work with that. With Gerard Piqué, he always said that if he was a problem for Barcelona, he will go or try to find a solution. Of course, not for free, but they will try to find a solution. With Jordi Alba seems to be a little bit more tricky because they already found a solution in the summer transfer market, and it was a loan to Inter Milan, and he decided not to go. They know with Jordi Alba it will be extremely difficult because the position of the player is, I don't care you signed Marcos Alonso and Bellerin in my position, I want to stay here, I don't want to move, I'm happy in Barcelona. So it's going to be really tough, and they will work the same with Gerard Piqué. The situation with the four captains is quite complicated. With Sergi Roberto it's easier because they finally managed to have a much lower contract in terms of money, and with Sergio Busquets he already said, and probably he's the one having more participation, of course he is in the team, he already said that if he doesn't change his mind he won't continue next year, but they will be trying to sort this problem with both Gerard Piqué and Jordi Alba, and not only in the next summer window, but they will work in trying to have a solution maybe in January transfer market. So this means just after the
wow, and it's crazy to think how so many players have an unstable future in their clubs, and they have that whole month that they can't necessarily prove themselves in their club because, of course, of the World Cup, in case anybody forgot that's literally around the corner. So it's such an interesting situation. Great stuff from both you guys. As always, we're not going to leave yet. We're going to look at a little bit of extra time because that's what we have, and a little extra fun now with the video that we saw now with the situation and Carrasco missing the penalty. Porto was very aware of the situation, and they didn't want to miss a second of it. They were a little bit excited of Carrasco missing the penalty. Rodri, what do you think of this?
Well, you know that this remind me to the situation back in high school, you know, by every June, every year, it was like, okay, now you passed your exams and now you're on holiday. I mean, it's just the same. It's like, okay, I can sign for ESPN. Come on, let's go.
I love it. What do you think, Gemma?
So this is like Barcelona's locker room yesterday during the Inter Victoria Pilsen game, but the other way around, opposite. Like everyone, I'm sure we couldn't record that, but I'm sure they were like this. So, good for Porto. I'm really sorry for Atletico, but that's football. Nothing else about this sport.
Oh my god, it's so funny what Rodri said too. I've totally been there, especially when it came. I told you guys I wasn't good at finances. When it came down to my econ classes, to my math classes, it was like, yes, come on, C's get degrees, and yeah, like you said, yeah, I can actually get a job now. But anyway, I don't have to talk about numbers, fortunately. I have to be aware of like financial situations, like what Gemma's telling us about Barcelona, but at least it's not my whole job.
I'm better with Barcelona's finances than myself.
Yeah.
So.
No, you've become an expert too. Maybe you can help. Maybe you have been helping them balance the books, Gemma. Maybe you have been this whole time and we don't know.
Yeah, the other books, yes, my own, not very much, but.
Hey, priorities in life, guys. Rodri, Gemma, such a fun time as always. Guys, keep studying. Get better grades than I did in math and econ, please. And we'll see you guys next time on LaLiga Insiders. Follow these guys, of course, on their Twitter with all the latest information. And you can catch all of La Liga matches on ESPN+. See you next time.